China and Hungary are deepening ties during a visit to the Central European country by Chinese President Xi Jinping.
But that's about to change. BYD is working on a plant in Hungary to bypass EU import tariffs.
As tensions between Russia and the West escalate, foreign companies that are withdrawing from the Russian market face increasingly severe consequences. The Russian government has taken significant measures to protect its economic interests, threatening foreign firms with both arrests and asset seizures. This is part of a larger strategy by the Kremlin to mitigate the effects of international sanctions and maintain some degree of financial normalcy in the face of global pressure. Asset seizures, a strategic move amid economic tensions. Russia has immobilized assets of prominent European banks that continue to operate within its borders, despite the increasing geopolitical tensions since 2022. These Western banks have maintained a foothold in Russia, generating significant profits and contributing nearly 800 million euros in taxes to the Russian government. This, in turn, has helped bolster the Russian economy, even while international sanctions aim to cripple it. Among the most notable consequences of these sanctions was Russia's exclusion from the SWIFT international payment network, which severely restricted the country's ability to conduct transactions in Western currencies. However, EU banks operating in Russia have provided a crucial financial lifeline, enabling transactions in dollars and euros, thereby allowing Russia to partially bypass these limitations. Austria's Raiffeisen Bank International, a case study in profits and pressure. A key player in this dynamic is Austria's Raiffeisen Bank International, which saw its profits in Russia surge dramatically between 2021 and 2023. In 2021, the bank's earnings in Russia were below 600 million euros, but by 2023, they had ballooned to 1.8 billion euros, a threefold increase. Consequently, Raiffeisen Bank International's tax contributions to the Russian government rose to 464 million euros. Despite mounting pressure from the Group of 7 nations to withdraw from Russia, President Vladimir Putin has actively blocked attempts by foreign banks to exit. The Russian government has frozen shares of banks like Raiffeisen Bank International and prohibited the sale of their Russian operations, effectively seizing their assets and profits. This situation leaves billions of dollars immobilized within Russia, creating a significant challenge for Western financial institutions. Financial channels, still open for Russia. Despite the severe sanctions imposed by Western powers, Western financial infrastructure remains accessible to Russian businesses. Banks like Raiffeisen Bank International serve more than 2,600 corporate clients and manage accounts for 4 million local individuals in Russia. This allows businesses and private individuals to buy and sell Western currencies and continue conducting international transactions. The continued operation of these banks is a significant weakness in the Group of Seven's sanctions regime. For instance, in 2022, Western nations, led by the United States, imposed stringent sanctions to cripple the Russian banking sector's ability to operate globally. However, Russia has successfully found alternative pathways for international trade. A large portion of its trade with China now takes place in Chinese renminbi and Russian rubles, with around 90% of their transactions occurring outside the conventional dollar-dominated system. Europe's reliance on Russian gas complicates sanctions. Further complicating matters is Europe's continued reliance on Russian natural gas. In the first quarter of 2024, Russia supplied 16% of Europe's total gas consumption. European industries, heavily dependent on affordable Russian gas, face severe economic repercussions if these supplies are disrupted. Companies like Volkswagen have even warned of potential plant closures in Germany due to energy shortages and rising costs. Despite efforts to diversify its energy sources, Europe continues to import significant amounts of Russian gas through three main channels: liquefied natural gas imports, the Turk Stream pipeline, and the Ukraine transit pipeline. In the second quarter of 2024 alone, the EU imported over 13 billion cubic meters of Russian gas through these routes. Payments for this gas require the involvement of EU banks in Russia, primarily using Western currencies like the euro, further complicating any plans to sever financial ties completely. Russia's response: asset seizures and legal battles. As Russia's access to its national reserves has been curtailed by Western sanctions, the country has retaliated by targeting Western firms still operating within its territory. By May 2023, more than 2,000 foreign companies remained active in Russia, though fewer than 400 had fully withdrawn, often incurring substantial financial losses due to Russia's heavy exit taxes. Some Western companies, such as German automotive supplier Continental, have restarted production in Russia after facing the possibility of asset seizures. The Kremlin has applied pressure on these firms by threatening to confiscate assets like property, machinery, cash, and data from companies that decide to leave. The legal battles surrounding these asset seizures underscore the complexities of international law and sanctions enforcement. In one case, a court in St. Petersburg ordered the seizure of 239 million euros from Deutsche Bank, 3.7 million euros from Commerzbank, and 462 million euros from another project. Deutsche Bank, headquartered in Frankfurt, has already provisioned 260 million euros for this case and is closely monitoring how the claim will be implemented by Russian courts. The future of foreign investment in Russia. The changing legal environment in Russia raises significant concerns about the future of foreign investment in the country. Andreas Kanal, an attorney specializing in corporate dealings in Russia, noted a shift toward a more authoritarian system of law, characterized by growing censorship and governmental control over the economy. For Western companies that have remained in Russia, the risk of asset seizures and the potential loss of billions of dollars is a growing concern. Approximately $8 billion in earnings are at risk of being frozen or becoming inaccessible. Moreover, the seizure of these assets is a key point of contention between Russia and the G7, especially as discussions continue about the confiscation of $300 billion in frozen Russian central bank assets. Western sanctions and Russia's retaliatory measures. The G7 has expressed a strong interest in using these frozen Russian assets to help rebuild Ukraine after the war. However, Moscow has made it clear that any confiscation of its assets would lead to countermeasures. In 2023, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov revealed that Russia had a list of Western assets that it would seize if G7 leaders proceeded with the confiscation plan. Peskov also hinted at the possibility of Russia targeting foreign assets held in special Type C accounts within the country, which contain substantial amounts of foreign investments. Russian Finance Minister Anton Silvanov has indicated that these accounts hold funds comparable to the $300 billion in frozen Russian reserves. Any confiscation of these assets by the West would prompt immediate retaliation by Moscow. The impact of sanctions on Russia's trade relations. While sanctions have disrupted Russia's access to Western financial systems, the country has sought to bolster its economic ties with other global powers, particularly China. China's growing influence in Russia's financial landscape is evident in the increase in transactions conducted in Chinese renminbi and the diversification of trade away from the dollar. In August, China set a record by selling $5.1 billion in U.S. assets, marking a clear shift in global financial dynamics. As countries like China turn away from the dollar, the U.S. faces growing challenges in maintaining its dominance in the global financial system. The increasing de-dollarization of global trade, coupled with the financial vulnerabilities exposed by sanctions, signals a significant shift in the international economic order. An uncertain future for foreign companies in Russia. The ongoing economic standoff between Russia and the West has created an increasingly hostile environment for foreign companies operating in the country. While some firms remain, many others are being forced to reconsider their presence due to the threat of asset seizures and the unpredictability of the legal landscape. As the global financial system continues to adapt to the changing geopolitical climate, Russia's ability to mitigate the effects of Western sanctions through alternative trade partnerships and financial channels remains a critical factor. However, the long-term implications of these economic retaliations could reshape the future of foreign investment in Russia for years to come.